Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Race number 9 at Kentucky Downs on an action-packed Saturday afternoon of racing is the Grade 3 Ladies Turf. We're going a mile. It's $1 million purse. Let's take a look at this field. 9-5 on the morning line for the number 3 White Frost, and consistency is her game. 11 starts, Mike, 10 on the board. You know what you're going to get from White Frost. It's usually a good effort.
Yeah, she shows up every single time. She's pretty good. She's come back off of a really long layup this year, Dan, and did win first back and hasn't won since then. There are some short-priced losses in there, but man, her overall stakes form is pretty good. I think you can make excuses for some of the recent losses.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for the ladies turf. It's not a big field, and the number 2 Haughty is expected to make the lead. And Haughty has had success in the past in graded stakes races when she's bounced to the front and set reasonable fractions. You note that blue bar on the pace projector. This race could favor front runners. The front runner is Haughty.
Yeah, it's certainly an advantage for her if this is how the race plays out. Dan, we've seen her do this before, get to the front in a stakes race and then just sort of keep on going and post a pretty big win. I don't know. She could certainly make the lead in here. The horse right to her inside also has some speed. Doesn't seem like anybody else could really make the front.
Let's chat a little bit about the one Regal Realm, because you're right. She has shown speed in the past. I'm not sure they wanted to do that last time out in the De La Rose, but I think their hands were forced. Technical analysis just got out to the lead. No one was going entering the backstretch, and Regal Realm and Florence Giroux had to take up the chase, and they were put on a hard chase and did the dirty work, and they paid the price. 2 starts back, they showed that she could do well from off of the pace. Maybe they take the race to Haughty this time around. Something tells me they might want to sit the pocket.
Yeah, we'll see how they decide to play it. I really feel like they should go forward in this race with her. She did win without the lead 2 starts back. It was a really impressive victory at Canterbury. It was also against a much weaker field. They were just totally overmatched by her that day. That's not the case here. And I feel like if they want to run her in another major race like this, especially one that shakes out the way that pace projector looks, Dan, they should come out of there running and try to make the lead with this filly. She's got a little bit of talent. She's still pretty lightly raced. I won't be surprised when she's effective in here, but I think they should go to the front.
The 2 Haughty's best race last year came in the Lake Placid at Saratoga when she got to the lead, got loose on easy fractions, and sprinted on home. Now, unfortunately, that was the last we saw of her as a 3-year-old. She came back off the layoff. She seemed a little bit fresh in that Grade 2 distaff turf mile. I think you can give her that race off the layoff. They haven't shown speed with her in her last 2 races, and you could argue she was up against it from a pace standpoint in her last 2, especially last time in that technical analysis race. The scenario could be way more to her liking here.
Yeah, of course. That pace projector really plays to her advantage if that's how they decide to ride her. And maybe that'll just make all the difference, Dan. I know that, she was sort of away from a slow pace last time and really couldn't make much of an impact. I still didn't think that she ran that well in there, but that's just me. I'm not a big fan of hers. She's got the one big win last year at Saratoga, the Lake Placid. And that race was just basically handed to her on a super slow pace. Maybe that'll happen again, but she feels like a horse who's going to get bet in this race. And I'm just not a fan. I'm betting somebody else.
Here's the morning line favorite, the 3 White Frost, a horse that might have been pace compromised in that De La Rose. They just weren't aggressive with her, leaving the gate, Mike, and she wound up down inside behind this slow pace, and they're starting to sprint home right now, and she does well to be second. She's down inside. She's looking for a seam. She's eventually going to get up behind this odds-on winner that controlled the pace. I think all in all, she ran just fine as she always does. And maybe, just maybe, they'll be a little bit more aggressive under new rider Joel Rosario, sitting second or third, ready to pounce into that long straight.
Yeah, you'd hope that maybe she could work out some kind of a trip this time. And the key point of that replay we just watched, Dan, is we showed you basically the final quarter of a mile, and that's the only part of the race where they were actually running. Look at those fractions. That's the fastest part of that race by over a full second. They're sprinting home in 22 flat. There's just no way that you're going to be able to catch a horse like technical analysis. White Frost did really well just to be second. Her race 2 starts back on yielding turf was sort of the same thing. Super slow pace. She's bumped at the start, winds up last, and has to settle for second again. Listen, she's been losing races at relatively short prices. I think she's way better than she looks on paper. This is a great spot for her if she can run her race at Kentucky Downs, which I guess is always a question.
I like the versatility that the 4 Carabine Dorada brings to this race. She's won at 5. She's run well at 5.5. She's won at a mile and a 16th. She's won at Kentucky Downs. This is her third start off of a short layoff. I thought she ran okay last time out behind New Year's Eve. She's the kind of horse to me that's pace adaptable. I don't think the pace is going to hurt her.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think she could get the right trip in this race. I couldn't ultimately talk myself into whether or not that I thought she was good enough to beat this field, but maybe she is. Her last 2 races are fine as far as I can tell, and she might get a really good trip in this race.
The 5 Henrietta Topham earned a graded stakes victory at Churchill Downs 3 starts back. I thought the trip was there for her. It was the old second over journey, tip 3 wide into the stretch and eventually grind them down. I thought she had a decent trip too back at Horseshoe Indianapolis. She ended up finishing 3rd, getting up for 3rd in the shadow of the wire. A little bit of trouble last time out. She's a bit underrated, but she really is a closer that needs some pace help.
Yeah, we'll see if it sets up the right way for her. Then if she can just outkick some of the horses who just might be a little bit better than her. You mentioned that Mint Julep 3 back down, the grade 3 win. She did beat White Frost that day. That was one of those situations, really short field. There was one other short price in there with White Frost. And I guess, the rider of White Frost just decided, you know what, I got to go after this horse. So they wound up dueling. This horse had a perfect trip and took advantage.
Graham Motion sends the 6, Sparkle Blue, down from his Fair Hill base. I thought this horse ran well going a mile and a half 2 starts back. Didn't break very well, very wide, tried to make a prolonged run, and ended up finishing 3rd. I talked to Graham after that race, and he just thought that was a little bit too far for her. Cut her back in this spot, a mile and an 1/8 the Big Dreyfus, dropped her in class, and this was a race where for a brief instant on the turn, it looked like it wasn't going to work out, and then it did. The hole magically opened up. Sparkle Blue shoots on through. Well, she did have a very good trip against inferior competition. Watch this last 16th of a mile. I love the way she extends.
I do too. I like this performance from her, and I think maybe getting dropped back in distance had something to do with that day, and she did look good winning. I also really like, she won the grade 3 Valley View late last year at Keeneland. I thought she ran really well in that race too.
New Year's Eve is the number 7. This is a filly that has the fastest time form U.S. late pace rating. She'll be running in the stretch. The question is, does she have enough pace to attack? She won last time out at Ellis Park in the preview race for this. She looked pretty good doing so as the favorite, and I didn't think she was embarrassed in the Just the Game 2 starts back at Belmont, Mike. I mean, she tried to get into it after breaking slow, but no one else really made an Italian run early.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was an underrated performance. And she ran well last time. She had a little bit of pace in front of her in that most recent start, and it kind of feels like she needs that to be at her absolute best. But she's a good horse, man. She shows up. She runs every single time. This is the right kind of distance for her as well. I don't really feel like she wants to go, a little any further than a mile and a 16th. This hits her right between the eyes. She's a real good horse.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. I think they found that the mile is what she wants. She's run well at longer distances, but her kick is enhanced at this trip, given enough pace. Let's take a look at our top selections for the grade 3 ladies turf. There are some nice milers in here. I understand why you're going with White Frost. She's very consistent. I think she was compromised by pace, maybe a little bit by being buried down inside last time out. I think she's going to be a lot closer this time around.
I do too. I hope she is. I'll admit, I'm getting a little tired of making excuses for her, Dan, but I still think she's a really good horse, and she's due for a little bit of luck. If she gets the right trip, she just might be the best horse in this race.
I like the progression that Sparkle Blue has shown in her 3 starts in 2023. It is a big step up in class for her on Saturday, but you get paid if she wins. She's 20-1 on the morning line, and she has some back races that make her somewhat interesting. 6-3-7-2 for me, 3-7-1-6 for Mike. It is race number 9, kicking off a 50-cent pick 4 at the Downs on Saturday. The ladies' turf. Good luck.